when you had that third failure in a row, did you think, I need to pack this in?
Never.
Why not?
I don't ever give up.
The year is 2008 and the world is on the brink of a collapse.
What the heck is going on down here? I don't know.
All of a sudden here, we started hearing screaming.
The market didn't work. It broke down. The machines broke down.
Fear came back into the market in a very big way.
Now it's official, we are in a recession.
It is definitely a very, very difficult time, and it's not going to get better quickly.
People are seeing this, and those memories of fear are coming back.
The Dow tumbled more than 500 points after two pillars of the street tumbled over the weekend.
A year so catastrophic that the American stock market was in a freefall, billion-dollar companies were crumbling into dust, $600 billion of assets collapsed overnight, 2.6 million jobs vanished into thin air, and the S&P was down by 40%. Because this was the 2008 crisis.
2008 was brutal.
Yeah, 2008, we had the third consecutive failure of the Falcon rocket for SpaceX.
The reason that there hasn't been a huge a big improvement in the space industry.
Talk about space exploration just for a moment. How is it going in terms of creating the systems that will engage us in space exploration?
And during this time, if you asked anyone in America about starting a business, they would have called you crazy. But in the middle of this chaos, there was one man who took a leap of faith so bold, it could have destroyed him. He bet every last penny he had on a rocket. Yes, a freaking rocket.
Musk decided that the only way to get an affordable rocket was to build it himself.
Read every book I possibly could on rocket engineering and decided to try giving it a go.
And he started SpaceX.
He's obviously a gambler, and many, many times he has put all of his money down and taken great risk.
$100 million into something that you did not believe would work at the beginning.
Yes.
What our industry needed was somebody like, say, a Steve Jobs, somebody that could really push the envelope.
But this time, his company had already launched 3 rockets only to see them fail miserably. And now he is 1 inch away from bankruptcy. So this launch could either make him a legend or the stupidest businessman in America. And as the clock ticked down to launch, America saw something that changed the world forever. Elon Musk just launched the Falcon 1.
On a remote island in the Pacific Ocean, Falcon 1 did it.
We have liftoff.
And this time around, everything worked.
SpaceX became the first to privately develop and successfully launch a liquid-fueled rocket to orbit. This is when SpaceX evolved from an engineering dream into a business.
Little did the people of America know that day that this rocket is going to turn Elon Musk into the richest man on earth. But before we move on, I want to quickly introduce you to our partners of today's episode, which is Scalar School of Business. And they are bringing in something absolutely revolutionary. People, if India is to become a $30 trillion economy by 2040, it will need many more visionary leaders like Elon Musk. Amitabh Kant, the ex-CEO of Niti Aayog, recently stated that our education system has traditionally focused on students earning degrees rather than producing high-quality talent. And even the IIT curriculums need restructuring. Meanwhile, companies like Scalar are already helping reskill students, which gets them jobs with a median CTC of 25 lakh rupees. So if you're seeking world-class business education, you must check out Scalar School of Business. They offer a full-time on-campus 18-month PG program in management and technology where you learn business hands-on from the leaders who have built billion-dollar companies like Uber, Myntra and McKinsey. You know, even the best business schools don't teach you how to build a business. They only teach you business concepts. That is why Scalar follows a practical first approach where students work on real-world projects reviewed by CEOs themselves. Just imagine if you get the chance of presenting a tier 3 market strategy to Uber India's CEO himself. Feels amazing, right? Just like this, as a part of the curriculum, students also have to build a business, take them to the market, generate revenue and even raise VC funding, all while studying on the campus. In fact, their first year students have already closed pre-seed funding for their startups. The best part is, with over a decade of experience, Scalar has access to 1,200 plus industry partners, boasting placement rates of 96% and a median CTC of 25 lakh rupees per annum. Last year, the program received over 1,000 plus applications with a 4% acceptance rate. And students came from top firms like Deloitte, EY, Amazon and Uber. And now their next batch launches in July in Bangalore. So applications are now open and you can receive scholarships up to 100%. So if you find this interesting, apply for Scalar School of Business through the link in the description or in the pinned comment section below. And now on with the episode. The story of Elon Musk's wealth started in the late 1990s, and this era from the 1990 to 2000 was an iconic era in American history because this was the dot-com boom.
In the late 90s, the dot-com bubble started to grow as the internet became a part of people's daily lives.
No technology in history has ever spread so far, so fast to so many people.
It's very easy to predict that there are going to be lots of successful companies born of the internet.
Now, the dot-com bubble was the most euphoric time in America. Most people called it the gold rush of the dot-com bubble because every person who had a dot-com, as in every person who had a website, got $1 million in funding without a business plan. Yes, you could do anything with this website. You could sell books, you could sell pet products, you could send wedding invites, or simply play the goddamn radio on a freaking website.
It's become a place where people are publishing information.
Right.
So everybody can have their own homepage, companies are there, the latest information. It's wild.
The internet is changing everything it touches.
You're linked to literature, the arts, the world at your fingertips.
All you needed is just a website. If you had a website, you could make $1 million with or without an idea, with or without a business plan. This was the gold rush of the dot-com bubble. When Elon saw the tech gold rush, he dropped out of Stanford and started an online city guide and sold it to Compaq for $307 million. Out of this deal, he got $22 million. Then Elon built an online payment platform called X.com, which then got sold to eBay for $1.5 billion. And Elon Musk made $180 million out of PayPal. So in just 3 years, Elon had another $180 million in his bank account after taxes. This is crazy, right? But you know what's even more crazier? He spent his entire $180 million of fortune in 3 absolutely bizarre ideas. He put $100 million in a space startup called SpaceX. He put $70 million into a car company called Tesla. And he put $10 million into a solar startup called Solar City. Now, do you realize how big a deal this was? Elon Musk was entering not 1, not 2, but 3 of the most ruthless industries on the planet, all at the same time. Each of these industries had titans that could eat 3 Elon Musks for breakfast. In space, while Elon Musk had no background and no degree in aerospace, he faced the unshakable giants named Boeing and Lockheed Martin. While SpaceX was a baby startup scrapping for funding, Lockheed Martin was pulling in $42.7 billion in sales. And Boeing's revenue stood at $60.9 billion. And then came cars. While Elon had absolutely no background on car manufacturing, the industry had titans like Ford, which stood at a market cap of $26 billion, and Toyota had already crossed $100 billion in market cap. These companies had been dominating the auto industry for over a century. But you know what Elon did? He came out of nowhere and told the entire world that he will build a car that's better than Ford, better than General Motors, and better than the legendary Toyota Motors. On one hand, while NASA found it difficult to land on Mars, Elon said he doesn't just want to land on Mars, he wants to colonize Mars and build cities on Mars. Sounds ridiculous, right? Well, it was ridiculous. So everybody called him crazy. They said Elon is building toys, not rockets. Tesla is not a car, it's a joke. And they said no one wants to drive an ugly, quiet car. And these were not stupid people on Twitter. These were experts who spent decades into engineering. And they didn't just criticize him, they laughed at him.
People who've been in the rocketry business for decades, who say about you that you don't know what you don't know. SpaceX's lack of experience bothers some NASA legends like Apollo astronauts Neil Armstrong and Gene Cernan. They've testified to Congress that the Obama administration's drive to commercialize space could compromise safety and eventually cost the taxpayers.
Now is the time to overrule this administration's pledge to mediocrity.
And this hurt Elon Musk a lot. But little did those people know that Elon Musk is just about to pull off a miracle. So the question is, what exactly did Elon Musk do? With very little money, with no experience, and with all the titans against him, how did Elon Musk launch his rocket, and how did he turn SpaceX into the most valuable private company in the world? And interestingly, the story starts with the Russians. In the year 2001, Elon walks into a Russian office and the Russian official says,
"So, Mr. Musk."
It's actually Musk.
Yeah, whatever. But why do you want to buy rockets?
I want to buy 2 decommissioned ICBMs and launch them to Mars.
Man wants to fly to Mars. Maybe he can send money to aliens too. Mars.com. Free money transfers across the galaxy.
And as soon as the Russians started mocking him in the first sentence itself, Elon was shaken. He flew hours just to be mocked by a bunch of Russians who did not know a thing about engineering. But Elon knew that he was in Russia and not the United States of America. So he humbly says,
I understand why it seems funny, but reusable rockets will lower the cost of space travel significantly and make missions to Mars feasible.
Reusable? You want to fly a rocket, land it and fly it again? That's like you saying you drink water, you spit it back in a bottle and you drink it again. That's ridiculous.
I'm serious, and I'm willing to pay $8 million per rocket.
$8 million? Haha. $8 million, huh? For $8 million, I'll give you a brochure of rockets, maybe a small bottle of vodka for free with that.
Now Elon is shaken, so he makes a better offer.
What if I buy 3 rockets?
Yeah, sure. With 3 rockets, we throw in 3 bottles of vodka, specially just for you, Mr. Musk.
So now Elon thinks, the Russians are maybe ready to sell the rockets. So he says,
all right, sounds good. So how much will it cost me?
$18 million.
Okay, that's great. $6 million per rocket. That works very well. Let me know, how do I proceed?
$6 million each? You think we are selling toys, Mr. Musk? It's $18 million per rocket.
And now Elon is started.
$18 million each? That's way too high. I don't have that kind of money.
Fine, no problem. Let's make it $21 million per rocket now, Mr. Musk. Is that okay?
Wait, you're increasing the price of the rocket because I said it's too high? That doesn't mean any sense.
And this is when Elon realized that the conversation that he was having was absolutely pointless.
Thanks for the advice, gentlemen. I think I will just go and build my own rockets.
Of course you will. And then what? Send rockets to God? Maybe deliver him a package with their PayPal money.
And that is how the meeting ends. Now you tell me guys, how would you react to this situation? Most people would just get angry, give up, or they would just go ahead and find a different supplier, right? But you know what Elon did? Elon literally decided to build his own rocket. And this wasn't just a random dream, it was based on a genius framework. A framework so powerful that while the Russians quoted $18 million, SpaceX launched their rocket at just $6.7 million. And this cost was so miraculously low that it even left giants like NASA and Boeing absolutely stunned. This framework is famously called the Idiot Index. To tell you about it, while Elon was coming back from Russia, he tried to understand the actual cost of making a rocket. And Elon found that the rockets were primarily made out of aluminum alloys, titanium, copper and carbon fiber. So he calculated that by sourcing these materials directly, the raw materials for a rocket cost less than 2% of the final price tag. For example, a rocket that costs $60 million to buy only requires about $2 to $3 million worth of raw materials. So he went to his team and he asked them, why are we paying $60 million for something that costs only $2 million to build? So Elon spoke to his team and made a chart. On one side was the raw material cost and on the other side was the purchase cost. And he said that the ratio of the purchase cost to the raw material cost has to be the lowest. And whenever it is very high, the team must look into cost cutting. For example, there is a component called turbo pump, which is responsible for delivering fuel and oxidizer to the combustion chamber in a rocket. Now the raw material cost, as in the cost of the steel and aluminium, was just $10,000. But the purchase cost from a supplier was $200,000. So do you realize that's a 20x markup? So whenever this index was as high as 20x, Elon's approach would be to question this ratio, and he would ask, why are we paying $200,000 for something whose material costs only $10,000? This is how he asked his team to question every component of a rocket. And when his team looked deeper, they realized that the domain of aerospace engineering was so messed up and so inefficient that the suppliers were overcharging Lockheed and Boeing by 100 times for something that could be made out of a college warehouse. Sounds unbelievable, right? Look at this. NASA's policies were so dumb that they used to buy a single latch for $1,500 or 1.3 lakh rupees. So Elon was like, why the hell are we paying $1,500 for a latch? And the engineer responded by saying, because Mr. Musk, these latches are aerospace grade latches. So Elon was like, what does it do special? And as it turns out, those latches did nothing but close the goddamn door. So you know what Elon did? He literally went to a hardware store, got hold of a $30 bathroom latch and banged it on the table to say, this will close the door in the moon, Mars and my goddamn bathroom. And that is how, by getting a bathroom latch, Elon saved $1,470 per latch and brought down the cost of a component by 49 times. So assuming 200 latches per rocket, you can imagine how much Elon saved simply by getting hold of a $30 component. Similarly, Elon drastically cut costs for his 5,000-ton SpaceX Starship by simply switching from aerospace grade carbon fiber to a stainless steel material. And this made such a huge difference to their cost that while the aerospace grade carbon fiber cost $200 per kilogram, the stainless steel cost him just $3 to $4 per kilogram. So again, it saved SpaceX millions of dollars in material costs. On top of this, by investing heavily into cutting-edge engineering, Elon did the impossible. Elon Musk built reusable rockets that could launch themselves and land back on Earth in the most mesmerizing way possible. That was mind-blowing, right? And you know how magical these reusable rockets were to the cost of SpaceX? Look at this. The cost of a rocket can be broken down into three parts. The first stage contains engines and fuel tanks. And then comes payload fairing, which protects the payload satellites, cargo and crew during the intense forces and vibrations of the launch. And then we have the second stage, which is responsible for delivering the payload to its final orbit. This stage contains a smaller engine and avionics system for navigation and control. And if you look at the cost breakdown, if a rocket costs $60 to $80 million, $36 to $48 million go into the first stage, $12 to $16 million go into the second stage, and $12 to $16 million go into fairing and launch costs. But you know what the Titans were doing? While Boeing let their first stage of the rockets burn up in the atmosphere or crash into the ocean like a discarded piece of trash, SpaceX changed the game. The Falcon 9 doesn't just launch, it comes back. And after delivering the second stage in a breathtaking feat of engineering, the first stage of the rocket lands vertically on its station. And after landing, this rocket is ready to fly again. While Boeing's payload fairing is discarded into the ocean, SpaceX fairings deploy parachutes to slow their descent back to the Earth in the oceans. And then the SpaceX team literally sails on a ship to bring these fairings back to the station. So if you see, it's only the second stage that SpaceX does not reuse because it's obviously stationed in the orbit. This is how through recovery, in-house production and reusability, SpaceX brought down the cost of the rockets to such an extent that while the Russians quoted $21 million for a single rocket, SpaceX launched their first rocket for just $6.7 million. And if you think it was easy, it wasn't. SpaceX burned millions of dollars, their rockets exploded, and SpaceX teetered on the brink of bankruptcy. In fact, at that time, Elon Musk himself admitted that if the next launch doesn't work, SpaceX will go bankrupt.
2008 was brutal. 2008 we had the third consecutive failure of the Falcon rocket for SpaceX. Tesla almost went bankrupt. We closed our financing round 6 p.m. Christmas Eve. 2008. It was the last hour of the last day that it was possible. We would have gone bankrupt 2 days after Christmas otherwise.
But then, ladies and gentlemen, on 28th of September 2008, as the entire world grappled with an economic nightmare, SpaceX pulled off the impossible. The Falcon 1, the first rocket, was launched and it reached the orbit.
No privately developed launch vehicle company had ever achieved Earth orbit. Everybody tried and failed.
Weeks later, I think we had the first successful flight of Falcon 1. We buckled the stage on the way to Kwajalein, and we still managed to get that rocket to orbit.
SpaceX has designed and developed this vehicle from the ground up, from a blank sheet of paper.
Only about 550 people on the team, and we've just managed to do what very few companies around the world have ever done.
It wasn't just a victory for SpaceX, it was a declaration to the world that innovation doesn't come from playing it safe, it comes from risking everything to build what others call impossible. SpaceX didn't just build rockets, they built hope. And in that moment, amidst the wreckage of the global financial crisis, they proved to the world that even in the darkest times, the light of innovation can ignite the stars. But having said all of this, the biggest question of all is, how on earth does SpaceX make money today? Well, as it turns out, Elon Musk's extraordinary cost-cutting strategy gave SpaceX three incredible superpowers. Firstly, NASA's space shuttle used to cost $1.5 billion to launch 27,500 kgs into space. That's about $54,500 per kg. And then came SpaceX with its Falcon 9. You know how much they did the same job for? They did it 20 times cheaper at just $62 million. So while companies like Boeing were launching a kilo of payload at $54,500, SpaceX did it for just $2,720 per kg. And guess what? When SpaceX did what companies like Boeing could do at 1/20 of the cost, NASA started giving billions of dollars worth of contracts to SpaceX. Secondly, because of this cost reduction, in 2023 alone, they didn't just stop at 10, 20 or even 50 launches. SpaceX alone in 2023 launched 100 rockets. Now, do you realize that's not scaling up, that's dominating the game. And while Boeing and Lockheed made new rockets again and again, SpaceX simply reused the same rockets and launched them back into the orbit. As a result, SpaceX captured 60% of the global commercial launch market. And lastly, since SpaceX did everything in-house, the research and development allowed the company to innovate faster than any competitor. So much so that while Boeing Starship failed to bring Sunita Williams, it is Crew Dragon spacecraft made by SpaceX that is now going to bring her back in February. This is how SpaceX went from being a baby startup to now becoming a market leader in the aerospace industry. So while the Russians underestimated Elon due to the blindness of their own ego, Elon worked hard with humility and turned every failure into a stepping stone to success. While NASA's experts called him crazy, Elon turned his craziness into groundbreaking innovation. And while Boeing and Lockheed Martin crumbled under their own weight, Elon and SpaceX took one small step at a time until those steps became giant leaps that changed the course of humanity forever. And as for the Russians, they still haven't sent a bottle of vodka to Elon. This is a story of how one crazy man is single-handedly pushing the fabric of humanity with grit and persistence. And as Steve Jobs rightly said, those who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.